Thank you, everybody. Thanks to everybody who's also joining us online. We've been waiting for quite a long time to do this today. I'm really excited about today. But before I begin, I do want to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, pay respect to their elders past, present, and emerging, and we do extend that respect to Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander folks who are with us today, so welcome. And firstly, a warm welcome to the final day of Cyber Week 2022. This has been in the planning for quite some time through COVID and through all kinds of ups and downs. What a week we have had. Hopefully some of you have joined us online if you're here in the room today, and hopefully some of you online have joined us in person. We have been all over the country. We have gone through our state-of-the-art stone and chalk innovation hubs in Melbourne, Sydney, and Adelaide. We've been in Perth, and of course wrapping up the best is always last, right, here in Canberra. So we're really excited to be here. We're really excited that we've been able to take the show on the road this year and visit and be face-to-face with people. It's great to see folks in a room again. It's great to have conversations. We're joined in the inaugural session on Monday in Melbourne by the Honourable Claire O'Neill, our Minister for Cybersecurity and Home Affairs, who mentioned at that point and reiterated that time the importance of the cybersecurity industry and growing that industry in Australia. It's the most, I guess, if you think about it, the most pressing time for cybersecurity in the history of our country, possibly the world. And that's not going to change. That is probably going to get worse before it gets better. But we're here today, we're here this week, and AusCyber here is here to try and rally against that tide and turn that tide. And what we're going to talk about today are some of the findings of our flagship publication, the 2022 AusCyber Sector Competitiveness Plan. We're really excited to give you some insights about that. So we're also joined throughout the week so far, just as a little bit of a wrap-up, by some very impressive cybersecurity experts and officials and some really impressive startups, founders, and scale-ups in the industry. We've had lots of discussions about all the things that you see in the news today, because we are, unfortunately, well-planned and well-placed this week to be talking about cybersecurity, having seen the two largest cyber attacks in our history in just the last few weeks. We've had audiences from all over Australia, as I've mentioned, but also all over the world. And it's really exciting to bring that message to the world that Australia is a power in cybersecurity. We know that here, but as I think most people know, Australians, unfortunately, we're not that great at telling other people about how good we are. Now, you can tell by my accent, I was not born here. I was born in a country where telling people how great you are is what we do. We don't want to be that, but we do want to find a happy medium. We really want to find a way to make sure that the world understands that cybersecurity in Australia is world-class, and we want to make sure that we grow and build that sustainably. So over the course of the week, having had over 3,000 people registered for events and over 1,000 people join us, both online and in person, like some of you here today, we also had 4 days of incredible dialogue and discourse, and we have over 500 people registered today for this event, both online and here in the room. We've done a few other things that are different this year. I mentioned traveling across the country. We haven't done that before, but we feel it's important to take that message to everyone, be inclusive and be available, and make sure that message is heard and that people's voices are heard and that we're listening. And the only way to do that is to go out and talk to people. We also spent some time this year with founders in the cybersecurity industry to understand how they can make their businesses more resilient, stronger, and sustainable. We had more than 200 people join us for workshops across the country on building that sustainability into the industry for small businesses. This is a nation of small businesses. And when we talk about cybersecurity, we talk about protecting large companies, governments, and small businesses. And by and large, the people who can do that are small businesses. Stone and Chalk and AusCyber are small businesses. This country is born and is driven by that, so we have to make sure we don't forget to take care of those small businesses across the country. So Cyber Week 2022 has showcased and celebrated as I mentioned, our flagship publication, that Sector Competitiveness Plan. That's the 4th edition that we've launched this year. And we're really excited that for the first time, we've combined the launch of that plan with this Cyber Week event. So we've had plenty to talk to and plenty of insights have come out of that. Just out of curiosity, how many people have already taken a look at the Sector Competitiveness Plan in the room? It's good that Jason has, since he runs the group. And I'm hoping some people online have. But if you haven't yet, I'm going to give you a few of the insights. I'm going to take you through a little bit of the highlights of what we found throughout the course of the last 12 months. 3 critically important themes emerged from this year's Sector Competitiveness Plan: growth, exports, and education. These are fundamental to the sustainability of Australia's cybersecurity industry. But let's dig in a little bit to that. We're in a must-grow situation. We cannot afford to rest. Even if we were at the top of the world in cybersecurity, we wouldn't be able to afford to rest. But we're not there yet. And it's not just because of Optus, and it's not just because of Medibank. We're going to see the number of cyber attacks continue to grow. We're just at the beginning of a new and far more dangerous wave. And if we think that the Medibank hack is the end game, I think we're all sadly mistaken. It's probably just a test. It's probably just somebody probing to see how far they can get, what the responses are, and what they can do next. So we do have to be careful. But I want to also stress something. This is not about doom and gloom. This is not about fear-mongering. This is not about always talking about national security, although that is certainly part of the discussion. It's also talking about just how we grow as a digital economy, and this is just part of the language that we now have to adopt. So, given all of that, you would expect that support for startups in cybersecurity would be off the charts right now, and you would be 100% wrong. It's just not, and it's shocking. Australian cyber startups have relatively limited access to support, funding, and capital. In 2022, for example, our startups generated 300 times less funding than our counterparts in Canada or in Israel. Israel, you might understand, but Canada? Similar-sized country, both Commonwealth nations. Why are they getting 300 times more support for their funding for startups than we are? That can't continue. Our venture capital and corporate venture communities need to come to the table and invest. This is my call. And you need to step up the game. We need to invest more in homegrown cybersecurity. The safest cybersecurity is grown here. We should be focusing on that. Government funding directed to cybersecurity research has decreased in the last 3 years from 9.8 million to 7.5 million in 2022. We can't be standing still. We definitely can't be going backwards. But that's exactly what's happening. We have to move forward. We have to move forward now, and we have to move forward quickly. I think everybody in the room and everybody online knows how quickly the cyber world moves. There is no time to wait. But it's not just money that the sector needs. Ensuring that the government and ensuring that corporate procurement processes are simple, easy, and accessible will go a long way. At Stone & Chalk and AusCyber, we have over 500 startups, scale-ups, and corporates in our community. And to a T, every single one of them tells me the most important thing we can do is not give them money. It's be their customers. So large corporates, the government at all levels, be customers of those startups and scale-ups in the cyber world. And that's one of the ways we'll make things grow. And the venture teams, yeah, we need your money. But it's not a single bullet. It's got to be constant and consistent support and investment. We need to support research, innovation, and startup development through ecosystem and community development. Really hard to build. How many people are a part of startups in this room? Anybody? Other than, it's hard. Let me tell you right now, I've been part of 7 startups in my life. It is the hardest work I've ever done. It is hard to be a startup, and to be a startup alone is even harder. Small businesses struggle every day, and we need to support them. Increasing R&D funding through ARC grants, increasing the scope and clarity of R&D tax credits and incentives, those are some of the ways that we can support that community. Continuing to collaborate across sector stakeholders and investing in developing and maturing innovation ecosystems and hubs will support the industry. It's tough to place bets on individual companies. Venture capitalists, investment bankers aren't great at that. What hope do governments have? It's impossible. So build the ecosystem, build a support mechanism underneath everybody, and float all boats. We don't have a 300 million person population like they do in the US, where we can just organically pop up startups and scale-ups that will grow and help support us. We have to curate that community carefully. That's where we need the support. So that's growth. Let's talk about exports. In order to grow, we need to expand beyond our borders. We need to reach out and become global players. We only represent 2.1% of the cyber spend globally. And if our startups, if our founders, if our cyber companies are focusing domestically only, you're focusing on 2.1% of the market. We need to focus on that and the other 98 so that we can grow and expand. And yet, we still see a lack of exports. Our cybers, on average, only half of them even try to sell overseas. Partially that's because of the fear, partially that's because of the lack of support, partially that's because of the lack of funding, but we have to change that. We also have to think that we deserve it. We belong on that global stage with anybody, but we need to do that now. Australian firms are not taking full advantage of that opportunity. If we're talking only 50% of our cybers exporting overseas, somebody else is doing that job for us. Somebody else is selling to that customer, making that money, and getting that money to do research and advancing the capabilities. Those are the opportunity costs that we have of not expanding to global sales. To compete, we need to bolster that export capability, and that requires support from governments, from corporates, and from organizations like us. We need continued trade outreach, trade missions, delegations, export support, and study tours. They'll all help. We do some of those. We need to do more. We need to do more of them more often in more places. Tying these together with a connection to local support ecosystems and communities that are there to support them helps ensure that the lessons learned on those trips or in those pitches or in those successes carry through and are built on and developed and have a chance to take hold and grow. But if we just send people overseas and they come back and they don't have any follow-up, most of those lessons go away. So export's a key part of what we need to do to build a sustainable, technology-driven economy here. And lastly, and definitely not least, education. Huge issue all over the world. We all know there's a shortage in skills. We all know there's a shortage of workers. And we also know that there's a shortage of awareness in the general population. That shortage will continue, and it'll grow for the foreseeable future. We need to ramp up our training, our education programs, and build more workforce of the future-ready skills and capability. That cybersecurity skills shortage will get worse before it gets better, and it will only get better if we take a top-down and a bottom-up approach at the same time. Let me tell you what I mean by that. I think we all have heard the numbers. If you haven't read the SCP yet, you've probably heard it somewhere else. Australia will have 3,000 fewer cybersecurity workers than it needs in just 2026. Likely more given what's happened the last few weeks. I think the demand for cybersecurity has grown exponentially just since Medibank, let alone Optus and Woolies and a host of others that have happened. Although there are more people entering the industry every day, it's not enough to compete and keep up with the demand. And it's not necessarily at the right skill level. And so, We need workers to keep up with that demand and get ahead of that curve. We also need to keep them here to help train the next wave. If they're not here, if they go back home, we're left with a void. So that's the top-down focus. Let's go get top-level cybersecurity professionals from all over the world. We need to increase the number of cybersecurity skilled migrants that we allow into the country, not decrease it. It definitely needs to go up. And we need to focus on those short-term migrations in order to fill the current demand and, as I said, prepare for the next wave. Creating incentives is part of that. It's not just about regulation, but giving companies incentives to hire international skilled migrants and giving those international skilled workers an incentive to come and stay here and transfer those skills. Critical, because they bring that training, that development, that coaching, and that leadership that we desperately need. That will help ensure that the bottom-up approach is more successful. And that bottom-up approach is about building up sustainable pipelines of new cybersecurity professionals and talent through education and training programs. We need to invest, as a country, we need to invest significantly in providing incentives to support Australian students and skilled workers to train in cybersecurity. Jason and I like to talk about how do we make cyber sexy, right? We've got to make it attractive for people to join the industry, to become part of it, and to help build it. And there's no better place and better time than here and now. All Cyber launched our cybersecurity traineeship program earlier this year, and it's a drop in the bucket. We're working with some great companies, but we're just not enough. We need everybody to get on board, help fund more traineeship programs, people who are coming up through school, people who are pivoting their careers, people who don't even know that cybersecurity is an option for them. We need to create that awareness. We need more cybersecurity training and awareness programs for kids. I've got 3 daughters, and ranging in age from 27 to 12, and they spend their entire day looking straight down at their phone. They're online all day, all the time. You can hit me up about the bad parenting later. But the bottom line is they are online all the time. Now, my kids are pretty cyber aware. You would expect so. But not most kids that they hang out with. They have no idea what they're doing. And that's not their fault. And it's not their parents' fault, because they don't have any idea what they're doing. And it's not their teacher's fault, because they don't have any idea what they're doing. But we need to start with the kids from as early as year 3 and just start training the idea into their heads that it's just like crossing a street. You look both ways before you cross. You look before you leap. Critical support is necessary. We need that training and that effort to be a national capability. That is the bottom up. While we fill the short term with the top down, we grow the long term bottom up. And if we don't, we're going to be right back where we are now in a few years, when everybody goes home and their visas are gone and we don't have any skilled workers in our workforce. So I want to leave you with this one question before I excitedly introduce our first guest today. A cyber attack targeting Australia currently occurs every 2 minutes, and that's going to double by 2027. An active network intrusion could cost Australia up to $12.5 billion. That's a lot of risk. Has there ever been a more important time, a more critical time in our nation's history to ensure the growth of the Australian cyber security industry? I can't think of one. So, on that somber note, I do want to now turn your attention to someone I've been waiting for close to a year now to introduce you to. Linda Cavanagh's career has spanned police, politics, and of course cybersecurity, with a focus on human elements of technology, privacy, and ethics. She's currently the Chief Operating Officer for CyberMerc. You've got some CyberMerc merch on your tables, I believe. And the Australian-owned cybersecurity and threat intelligence company. But the real reason Linda's here today has less to do with that role and more to do with the fact that she is the founder of the National Missing Persons Hackathon, something that I couldn't be more excited to be associated with. A crowdsourced, open source intelligence event that assists Australians all over the country and law enforcement investigations into missing persons. The event brings together people from all walks of life to help find that missing puzzle piece that could help find somebody's loved one. Incredibly noble event. Linda will facilitate a panel discussion later on, leading OSINT experts and law enforcement about the search for missing persons and how digital footprints can assist or hinder investigations, so don't miss that. It'll be followed by a little bit of catered networking and lunch downstairs, so stick around for that. But Linda also has some exciting news to share with us today. I'm not going to steal her thunder. Please put your hands together and join me in welcoming Linda Cavanagh to the stage. As I said, Linda and I have been talking for quite some time to try and make this happen, and I'm really excited about it. I know Linda's bursting at the seams excited about this. And the reason I'm excited about this is I took this job a little over a year ago, and from almost day one of the first sets of questions I kept getting asked over and over again, are you doing the hackathon? Are you doing the hackathon? Are you doing the hackathon? My inbox filled up. I don't know about yours, but I think I just had to do it to get rid of those questions. But it's obviously an amazing opportunity. I don't know about you, but I still get messages all the time. And I think that the demand for what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve is still through the roof. Tell me a little bit about what's happened the last few years while you've been waiting to do another one.
Look, it still completely takes me by surprise as to how this idea of bringing the community together to support the AFP's National Missing Persons Coordination Centre just grew into what it is. And the constant inboxes and the messages, I have to say, has been absolutely humbling in the sense of that it is still an important element of the community and that people are actually still wanting to participate in this. Having it come back into the landscape and creating more awareness, I have to thank you and your team publicly, Michael. We have obviously had a little bit of a hiatus. We haven't been quiet and doing nothing. There is a lot that has been happening in the background, but what we're going to be talking about today and what we'll be announcing today is because of you and because of your team. And I thank you on behalf of everyone that has participated, that you have seen and understood our mission and the vision of why the Missing Persons Hackathon is very important to what we're doing.
Thank you, but the thanks and the gratitude are all from us to you. You're doing the work, you're creating the difference, and you're doing an amazing amount of good for the country. So humbled just to be part of it and to be here with you and to play some small role. I can't imagine why you wouldn't. Tell us, though, we've heard about how successful it is, and it has been amazing. Why? What makes it so successful?
Look, I could probably give you 1,000 reasons because everyone gives me a different reason as to why they see that this is important, why they participate. And I think it's probably due to its, and I'll use the words that I've always used before, it's unique. It's different in what we see in the current landscape. It is still a world first, the fact that we bring a country together from people from different walks of life who put their hand up and say, I want to be part of this. I actually want to contribute to assisting law enforcement. I want to contribute to trying to help loved ones find their missing people. The fact that people don't need experience, they don't need to be open source intelligence experts to be able to spend 6 hours either at home or on location to be able to support that mission that we have. So I think it's about bringing the community together, the fact that we all have our little bit of social warrior inside of us, being able to say, I'm part of something bigger than me. And this is something bigger than me. This is something bigger than OSCyber, Stone and Chalk Group. The impact that we have and the potential that we have with this event and where it's going is there to support the loved ones and to support the Missing Persons Coordination Centre.
Yeah, who wouldn't want to be involved? So before I go further, What are we announcing today? What are we talking about? What's going to happen?
I've been waiting for you to ask that question for months. And we actually are here, like I am containing myself right now. It's nervousness, it's excitement as to where this is actually heading. And as you've seen, we have been quiet, but we have been doing a lot of work in the background in relation to where this is going next. And I'm not going to be one of those people who's just going to leave what's happening right at the end of the show. Look, book this date in your calendar. It is Friday, 24th of March. That is the date that is happening. We are going to be focusing on, sorry, I have more. Relax.
Keep going.
I have more. We are going to go back to our original format. I'm actually wearing, for nostalgic reasons, a 2019 hackathon t-shirt. We're going in person. We're going on location around the country. We had such a massive impact in 2019, and 2020 was absolutely fabulous. We were able to ramp up online, and we doubled our efforts in regards to participation and in regards to the volume of information we were able to pass on. But let's try and do this in person as well. We're going to go around the country again, bigger and better than it was before. So lock that date in your calendar.
Say it again.
Friday, 24th of March.
That's all right.
Friday, 24th of March. That's it. That's the date. But we also have some additional things. During this time, and obviously with the support of Michael and Stone and Chalk Group, we've found a new home for the National Missing Persons Hackathon. I'm pleased to announce that I've established Missing Foundation, who will actually be the delivery vehicle for the Missing Persons Hackathon. So I'm becoming a little bit emotional here at the moment because it's something that I've been working on in the background for a very long time. We have some absolutely fabulous support out there that support the loved ones of our missing people, that support the efforts that police do in their search, that advocate. And like the Missing Persons Advocacy Network is a perfect example of that. The difference and the objective that I see that this foundation will create is that we will actually be focused on bridging that gap in the investigations between police and the search for loved ones. We will crowdsource, we will use open source intelligence, we will use technology to be able to support those searches in real time. So not just from a long-term perspective, which is the fabulous work that the National Missing Persons Coordination Centre do, the Foundation's going to broaden that remit and be able to provide real-time support in assisting law enforcement. And part of that, one of the new initiatives as well, and this is my third announcement, one of the new initiatives that hopefully we'll be launching actually at our March event is showcasing to you a new crowdsourcing platform, a 24/7 platform that is going to assist policing jurisdictions to be able to support their missing person cases. And this is all for you. So you're not just waiting once a year, the fabulous work that we do. I can just see the appetite out there. I know that law enforcement will be supportive of this. We'll be able to do this in real time for them through a singular channel and through the Missing Foundation.
I think that deserves more than a round of applause. Wow. A new event, live and in person, a new foundation, and a new 24/7 platform, all to support finding missing loved ones all over the world, all over the country. I know why you get emotional. It's an emotional thing, and it's an amazing opportunity for everybody out there in Australia to participate, not just during the event, but please sign up, join the search, help, support the foundation, support Linda and the team for all the work they're doing. You couldn't be doing anything better with your time or your money. So lastly, we want to make sure that people can do this and can get in touch with you. How do people reach out and find out more about the programs and get in touch to support and offer support?
Okay, so obviously we've made these announcements so we can now be public, and we will be sharing all of the new initiatives that we are going to be implementing. So please, if you don't already, follow National Missing Persons Hackathon on LinkedIn and on Twitter, and also, and I'm not going to get this one wrong, info@missingpersonshackathon.com.au. That's the email. Please reach out to us. You will see that through the advertising we will be doing a call out for certain areas in the coming weeks. So the first area will be for sponsorship, assisting us to be able to deliver the event and the long-term strategies that we have. We already have our fabulous sponsors from previous years jump on board, such as OSINT Combine, who we'll be speaking to very shortly. But we've also got some new people that have jumped on board for the next event with Pen Tester Labs, Mosse Institute, Shadow Dragon, Cyber CX have all jumped on board to be able to support this next event. So we're doing a call out for sponsorship as well. We can't deliver this without your support. This is a not-for-profit event. It's a not-for-profit foundation, and it's through your support that we're actually able to deliver this. We'll also be doing a call out for volunteers. We need support. We need to be able to get this around the country. We need to be able to make sure that this remains a community event. So we'll be doing a call out for volunteers as well. So please, whatever location you're in here in Canberra, or for those of you online, as I said, we're going to go around the country, and we will need your support to be able to identify venues, to be able to identify locations, but also to spread the awareness of the new event coming along.
And when do tickets go on sale?
Next month. Just before Christmas, Christmas presents.
What a gift. Absolutely fantastic. I couldn't say it any better. What an amazing opportunity to support Linda and the team and all of the folks doing this great work. Could you just stand up for us? And let's just give you some appreciation for the work you do. And I'd love to, if you're online, we can hear you. So let's hear some applause from everybody, because this is an amazing opportunity to show some gratitude for somebody who's been working for so long behind the scenes to make something happen. We're really proud to be part of it. Congratulations.
So the next part, again, thank you to Cyber and Stone and Chalk Group for allowing me to announce the next iteration of the National Missing Persons Hackathon, and I'm so glad to have so many people online and in person to be able to support this. But as I've just said, there are so many people in the background that support this event, and today I wanted to use this as an opportunity to talk about open source intelligence, how it actually supports the search for missing persons, but also as part of Cyber Week to talk about what open source intelligence actually is, how it actually impacts cybersecurity, not just for small businesses or for large enterprise, but us personally, our own digital footprints, our own ability to be able to find information ourselves, but more importantly for those other people that can find that same information and be able to use that information for nefarious reasons compared to why we bring people together for the hackathon. So I actually have three fabulous people who have supported this from day one that I wanted to introduce to you. And the first person that I wanted to introduce to you is actually Commander Andre Quinn. Commander Quinn, if you wanted to come and step up. Commander Quinn is actually the National Operations Coordination Commander who actually looks after the National Missing Persons Coordination Centre and has been an absolute advocate for us, an advocate for innovation, new thinking, and we are so pleased to be able to support you. So please put your hands together for Commander Quinn. Just grab a seat if you want. The other person, second person I'd like to introduce, really needs no introduction at all. He is the world of open source intelligence. He has put Australia on the map for open source intelligence through the founding and the development of OSINT Combined and Nexus Explore. It is the one and only Mr. Chris Poulter, the CEO of OSINT Combined. Thank you, Chris. And thirdly, but definitely not last, is a champion also for the National Missing Persons Hackathon. He has a wealth, like years of experience in cybersecurity, both from being a founder of startups to working within the Australian Information Security Association, but also more recently as Group Executive of OSINT, part of the Stone and Chalk Group. Please welcome Jason Morell. Thank you so much for taking the time out to spend some time with us and for me to be able to ask you a few questions and be able to discuss this with everyone that we have here and online. We really do appreciate, we know that you're busy, and the fact that you've supported the National Missing Persons Hackathon goes to the testament of the importance of what we actually do. Andre, if I could ask you the first question. As I mentioned, we've got the National Missing Persons Coordination Centre within the Australian Federal Police being one of the key delivery partners for the event. Would you mind letting us know what the National Missing Coordination Centre is about and how it actually assists with missing persons?
I guess the key to it, we talk about a lot of small businesses getting together in the cyber security environment. In some ways, policing jurisdictions across Australia work separately. So the National Missing Persons Coordination Centre was established in 2006, and it was designed to bring all the state and territory police jurisdictions together to go, how do we best manage missing people and finding them, and what are key bits of information that we need when people are reported, how do we record that, and what do we do? Because it may surprise some, or maybe not, that some of our reporting's not together. We all have different systems. So there are systems that are managed nationally, and we've worked that one of the key deliverables to me for the National Missing Persons Coordination Centre is twice a year, all the missing persons units across all the states and territories and New Zealand come together and we go, what's the issue that we need to deal with now, and let's all deal with it together. So whether it's focused on cold cases, we're all going to look at that and see what we can find, or the AFP has funded a national unidentified human remains, looking DNA for unidentified human remains to match with some of the 2,500 long-term missing people we have in Australia. How can we do that consistently and do our best to help find people and find their loved ones, or work out for loved ones what's happened?
So I think you publicised just recently that last year 53,000 people went missing, and
Reported missing.
53,000 people were reported missing, and of that about 2,500 are long-term cases.
So the long-term missing number in Australia is at around 2,500, but of those 53,000 reports that we received in 2021, 98% of people are found. So they might be like, well, there could be a child that's gone missing and mum and dad have reported them. So those numbers are high because of that. But the 2,500 missing persons have remained fairly consistent over the years across Australia. And some of those could date back 50 years, 60 years, and people are still waiting. So some of work like this and the advances in science are doing some really good stuff. So yeah, so 98% of people are found, and found within a couple of days. But yeah, 50,000+ reports a year in Australia of missing people. It's a lot.
Exactly. So what are the sorts of challenges that police face when it does come to finding a missing person that has just been reported, or even through some of the long-term cases that you look after?
The long-term cases, the passage of time means that what is left to look for and what you can do is it lessens over time. And so the first part of the question was like the shorter term things, it's reporting people quickly and understanding quickly and gathering the information that you have to be able to help police on their search. So if you're coming in and reporting, do it quickly. Don't say, oh, like on the telly, you got to wait for 24 hours. That's not right.
And that was going to be a follow-up question. Is there such a thing as 24 hours?
No, there's not. And no, there isn't. If you're worried about someone, you should report them, because you don't know where they will get found. Yeah, where they'll turn up. So no, the 24-hour thing is a myth. If people are missing, you should report them. And some of the work that, it's again, the National Missing Persons Coordination Centre has done with the state and territory police is to understand how they report and how they record, and getting things in the system quickly so that they've got local systems within the jurisdiction and then beyond if it gets to that point, to share that information straight away.
And so this is where I suppose, in a sense, the National Missing Persons Hackathon plays a part, is being able to assist some of those challenges.
Yes, because the majority of the police, the majority of the police they're dedicated in the National Missing Persons teams out and about, they wouldn't get access to the cyber. We could probably do it like we would all do, quick bit of Googling on social media, I'm sure they would do that. But they don't have the ability, the capacity, and potentially the capability to go, okay, what else is there that I can find? So the second part or third part of your announcement, that sort of 24/7 component, because there's people out there that want to help, I've been doing this for a couple of years, and I think I started just as the last hackathon was on, and it was like, this is really cool. And really great to see some people that I'd known from another job I was doing together and just wanting to do whatever these hackathon people do with that information on the dark web, which makes me quite nervous. It's just fantastic because people are really interested in doing that. So it's great.
Yeah, and so speaking of Googling, all of those sorts of things,
Way
Chris,
more than that, I'm sure. I can do that.
I'll ask our resident expert. So the hackathon is about the Googling, to put it simply. It's about looking for those digital footprints, and the first thing that the majority of us think of when we think digital footprints is social media. Yep, I'm going to get onto Facebook, I'm going to get onto Insta, I'm going to go onto Snapchat, whatever you young cool kids are doing nowadays. Yes, I just made myself sound old, oh my lord. Could you give us an insight, what actually is a digital footprint and what sort of online activities that I'm doing are going to contribute to information out there?
Yeah, look, it's a really interesting one because it's, like you said, most people default to social media and what that sort of looks like. But if you use an analogy, a digital footprint can be replicable if you, say you're walking through the snow, right, and you take off, you're taking steps through the snow and you're leaving a trail. And everywhere you step, it's more than just a hole in the ground, which would be the equivalent of, hey, I'm doing a Google search and I can see that something was there. Everywhere you step, there's a pattern in the way that the pattern of the shoe, the dirt that gets transferred from step to step. If you transfer that from a digital perspective, all the things you touch and interact with online. So social media is one of them, the people you like and comment, and your social circles. The websites you visit when you get into the cyber realm and you're looking at your IP trail. And it goes beyond all those different touch points into the databases that you interact with when you're leaving a footprint on every time you go to Yelp and you do a review or you go and register for an Airbnb. All those things are part of the footprint and the trail that you leave. And it's trying to connect those dots. And the discipline around the OSINT space is taking that publicly available information, yes, collecting it, but then the analysis of it is really the key part. And then how you pivot out from different areas to then actually produce some form of intelligence product, and then hopefully supporting at scale the things that, from a capacity perspective and a volume perspective, and like you said, an expertise perspective as well to a degree, is really the key part of what the output is trying to achieve.
Love that analogy. I hadn't heard of it in that way, and it really just makes sense in the sense of, stepping into that snow, touching that snow, watching the way in which it forms is exactly the same as when we're touching our keyboard, or we don't use keyboards anymore, do we? We use phones, which is obviously what I'm referring to at the moment, is touching our phones. I love that analogy. And I suppose with investigations, whether I suppose it's law enforcement or your own private investigations, when you're actually going out there looking for open source intelligence, there's obviously just a plethora of information. Where does it come from? Who put it out there? Why did they put it out there? What is actually available? We can reasonably assume that there is a lot of disinformation out there. There's a lot of fake news, red herrings, whatever that they may be. So when you're actually looking at it from an investigative point of view, how do you actually confirm the veracity of the information, and are there tools available to be able to assist with that?
It's the biggest challenge we're always going to face. But if you look at it from a OSINT perspective, validation and verification of the information is the hardest part because, like you said, anyone can put something out there. The barrier to entry to deceiving someone is very simple. And that could be from someone potentially in a missing persons case who doesn't want to be found. So there's all these things that can play a role in it as well. But if you break that down from a disinformation perspective, human intelligence and other forms are all subject to the same deception. Someone can say something in a conversation or mislead an engagement with someone and have the same effect as what they put online. It's complex in terms of tooling. This is why it's still an analyst-led or a human-led activity, because they need to work through that and they need to break that down, find multiple sources to confirm information, tie that back to a form of measuring what is reliable, what is not reliable, what is the difference between something someone can control. For example, they can put a post out on social media, but the IP address that they connect to a particular service is also part of that footprint. If they haven't used a VPN, for example, that leaves a footprint that they may not have control over or may not have thought about having control over. And so there's going to be varying degrees of attribution and things like that you can work through. Complex, no easy answer, unfortunately, but still a human-led activity for that reason.
So when you go from generating open source intelligence to actually the intelligence part, one of the Missing Persons Hackathon is specifically about generating that open source. There really isn't an analysis or an intelligence part of it. We actually hand that over to police to help generate any new leads, and they're the ones that do the analysis. So you talk a lot about social engagement clusters as such, as part of that analysis. Could you break that down for people? I'm just thinking from the sense of when you're actually online and as part of the National Missing Persons Hackathon, so all legal, you're looking for information on someone. How do we actually draw a picture or create a profile on someone, and how does that potentially lead us to the next point?
Yeah, and it ties back into your first point. It's trying, like when you're working in such a sea of data, like there's just such a plethora of information. We live in an information society. How do we actually work through what's relevant? If you look at it from an intelligence discipline, you'd set up collection planning and setting barriers, etc. With the engagement cluster stuff specifically, that's looking at social networks. And because when you have Facebook or you've got a Twitter account, you may not have control over who likes or is a friend. So they're not often, the social media platforms are not often representative of true friends or nature, or the true relationship of the true nature of the relationship, I should say. And when someone has 8,000 friends on Facebook, how do you break down the ones that matter that might know something about someone? And so engagement clusters come into this. And this is looking about who is liking and commenting and engaging with that person from a frequency perspective. And it's a very simple process to break down, and it's just looking at collecting the data and then running some analysis over that to try to create those focal cluster points that might then feed into and be more relevant to pass on to the AFP and the law enforcement agents that are actually conducting the analysis part, like you said, in the investigative aspect. But if we can speed up and keep the can down the road a little bit faster for focusing those efforts, because we're working in such a sea of data, that's where those sort of techniques play a role.
Excellent. So one of the, I think it was part of my introduction, was talking about open source intelligence and it not just being about digital footprints. It also plays a part more broadly in cybersecurity as well. So with Jason, if I can ask you, when we do, I suppose, think of open source intelligence, we do primarily just go to what have I liked, what have I put out there? What impact do we actually create when I'm constantly posting on Facebook where I'm travelling, or on Instagram that I love powerlifting, or that I'm talking about? That is true.
She does love powerlifting.
That is true. I'm actually using real life examples here. What sort of an impact does that actually have on me and my employer, who's hopefully not listening?
No, but the thing was, I don't think that was ever thought about when people started on Facebook or any of those sorts of things, because one of the biggest mistakes, obviously, people used to make was, remember, they were travelling overseas and they'd have a picture of their passport with their boarding pass in there, or they were having a birthday, so their birth date. You've got that they buy a house, you pin the address of where they are. There's things like Snapchat and all these sorts of things. Just going through with my daughters, I think one of them would be fantastic at finding people, because before she gets any boyfriend or is interested, she knows their full history, what schools they went to, what sports they're into, all that sort of thing. They say that in jest, but that's how easy it is often, just to go, we're worried about the Medibank thing and what's happened with Optus and all those sorts of things. They're of concern because people have got those details, but it isn't that hard to actually go and get that sort of detail. So if you wanted to do it from a cybersecurity point of view, it's actually very simple, unfortunately, to go and do that, because people's history is so far back. And they might have adjusted their way now, but I did say to my daughter, she's going for her first job, real job. And I said, go back through your history and see what an employer would find out about you. Do you want all those posts in there? Is it maybe time to do a bit of a clean out of some of the stuff you were doing? I'm glad it wasn't around when I was going out her age. I don't think I'd have a job, to be fair. But you've got to go through and just look at it from that way. So look at it and do it on yourself, and maybe do it on your family and stuff like that as well. And just to get a real feel of how easy it actually would be to replicate someone's complete life just from what you can find online.
Yeah, exactly. And I've used the terminology before in the sense of, for me, I see that as a digital proof of life. We all know that if it's not Insta, it didn't occur thing, but it has greater impacts than that. And shared before, prior to me actually commencing in my previous role with Cyber, so that was only like 4 or 5 years ago, I didn't have a digital footprint. And that was because of the fact of the roles that the employers that I had. I was very protective of my privacy, very protective of my information. How could it be used? And then I come into a job where it's forward-facing, and all of a sudden here I am. I've got Twitter, I've got LinkedIn, I've got Facebook, I've got all of these sorts of things, and people can actually know exactly who my previous employers were. And no joke, people know who my family are. They know that, what my hobby is, what my favourite food is. And the concern is, what impact does that actually have on my life? Obviously, having been in this and currently in that profession, I am more careful, having all of the settings, the lockdowns, so it is that little bit more difficult. But what sort of things do people need to consider? What are some of the easy steps others can take in regards to either minimising their footprint or actually, as you said, cleaning it up?
Yeah, look, a lot of people going through the process now are just saying, for obvious reasons or some reasons, I don't like Twitter anymore, I'm going to remove that account, or I'll remove Facebook. But that's still there, that history is still there. So even when you shut it down and remove it, that digital footprint is still sitting all over the internet. So it's not as simple as that, unfortunately. Even I know people who have had things said about them on Google or posted. To actually go to Google and try and remove that is also a difficult process. So if we take responsibility and go back to ourselves, what we can do, and we are talking cybersecurity here, the protective mechanisms you need to have in place really are obviously passwords. People replicate their passwords across multiple accounts that have the same there, multi-factor authentication, putting those sort of places in there. But then you want to do a bit of an audit on your own life and just basically go through it and actually think about what you're actually going to post. I think sometimes we can't change the past, unfortunately, but what are you thinking about how you're going to post into the future? So how many security mechanisms, and this is something we need to do, and I'm glad we're working together to get that message out there, not just from that we're looking for this person, but if you're being searched for, how easily could you be found? And look at the other side of the equation as well. And it's great that we're doing this, and it's almost scary at the same time that you can actually go and find these bits and pieces out about people. And as you said, Chris, and you've mentioned as well, I've got the same situation, is that these people on the other side who don't want to be found, it's actually quite easy to do that as well and misdirect people on the other side of the fence as well. So really think about, what do you want to be seen out there, how do you want to be seen, and how easily do you want to be hacked or not. So
Yeah.
you've still got to start at that point and then go forward from there.
Yeah, and that's where personally I find myself a bit conflicted, in the sense of, this is what we do as part of the National Missing Persons Hackathon. We're actually actively out there looking at people's profiles, looking at their digital footprints to actually try and assist their loved ones and assist law enforcement. But then at the same time, here I am telling you, be careful. Jason's saying, do this, do that, all of those sorts of things. So I think there's that fine balance between the both. It's, yeah, we're doing absolutely something fabulous. We're not actually misusing that data, albeit it is open source and everyone can access it. But something for you to keep in mind is, yeah, how am I represented out there? So
that's why I think it's good. I think that's the good part, is that what you're doing is that it has that good effect back the other way, is that people go, gee, look how easy that was to do, or really look back at themselves. I think we just need to make sure that message is constant, that we've got to protect ourselves. We've got to make our messaging clear. I think that's part of what our Cyber, Stone and Chalk and working with you is to do, is to get that message. Overlaying that is, how do we make it simpler for people to put the basics in place? And Michael mentioned about starting at schools and starting with kids, and often it's children that go missing. But you know how easy it is to ping when they do Snapchat and the location services and all the different things that are tracking people the whole way. When someone gets lost, great. But when someone's trying to find someone that doesn't want to be found, not so great.
Yeah, exactly. Look, two final questions just before we wrap up. So Chris, I'll just have the second last question to you. You do a lot of work in the not-for-profit area, and as I've said, supported the National Missing Persons Hackathon from 2019, which, by the way, was the first time that I actually met Chris, and has bent over backwards to support the event. So when it comes to supporting law enforcement with open source intelligence, you've worked with, obviously, the Australian Federal Police, you've worked with international law enforcement agencies and other not-for-profit organisations. The participation in this event, what benefit does law enforcement actually get that you've actually seen?
Yeah, I think Andrea touched on it before. It's the scale, like the volume of support, because it's the collection activity to try build that capacity. So the investigators can lean on all of their other forms of information and intelligence and leads that they might have, and they're fusing all that together as part of that analysis to then obviously drive some, hopefully, positive outcome. But definitely the scale, and also the expertise side. Law enforcement is so busy doing a fantastic job that the skills maintenance or the capability to do some of these tasks may be better from the private sector, who are focusing on trying to build these things up. And so if there can be that public-private partnership, that's a really key thing, because if we can create scale and efficiency in this outcome, it's just going to lead to more positive. If the intent is good and the moral and ethical conduct is there, obviously those boundaries are important, then the outcome is going to be at scale, which is great.
And so, similar final question for you, Andre, in the sense of with the National Missing Persons Hackathon and the amount of participation that we've had, I think we calculated it was over 1,080 people over the two events that we had that actually participated. What does this mean for the National Missing Persons Coordination Centre, AFP, and other jurisdictions?
All the state and territory jurisdictions, it means potentially we will be great to connect a missing person with their family or for a family that's had someone missing for a time to help them start to heal in that process. And it sounds the last hackathon, there was 52 new pieces of information found. And that doesn't sound like very many, but if there was 52 individual families, that helped put them together again or solve a question. 2 is enough, 1 is enough. So I think, yeah, it's just good.
Yeah, exactly. And we all look at the event. And one of the most other common questions I've had over the last several years is, have we found anyone? Has any of this contributed to us finding someone? And I'm not going to put you on the spot, Andre,
I know,
that's
I'm just
okay.
Thinking I'll know that for the 24th of March, Friday the 24th of March.
Thank you. But as you said, 50-odd pieces of brand new information that police did not have. And I think the first year, correct me if I'm wrong, was it 40? On pieces of information, which all of you generated that police did not have before, that could either help move the case from a cold case to more action or may have solved. So I'm not going to put you on the spot because I completely understand why potentially we can't discuss any outcomes. So I hope everyone understands why we may not necessarily be able to provide that information for you.
And that's in a 6-hour window with what Linda is standing up with a 24/7 platform. Just think of the volume and the scale that can support that. I think that's fantastic.
And that more immediacy. So the hackathon is only once a year. You can deal with that another time, Linda. No, it's once a year, but to have a continual, and I know, talking to a few people at that last one, they were really keen. And what could we do? What could we continue to do? And it's honing their skills for a purpose, which is really good. I think it's us.
You did good.
Honing our skills for a purpose, which is great too. Yeah, it's a good thing.
On that note, thank you. Thank you very much. Can we give the panel a warm round of applause? As I said, I really do appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedule to be able to support us. I know, Chris, you have been going from country to country of late. You just happen to be here in Canberra on this day, so that's fabulous. Andre, I know that you have so much on your plate, and Jason, you've also been travelling around the country. So just finally, before I hand over to Michael, thank you to everyone who was able to make it in person today. It really does mean a lot. To those of you who joined online as well, my warmest appreciations for having the time to be able to sit down and listen to where we're heading and being able to spend some time with these fabulous panel members. And thank you to Stone & Chalk CEO Michael Bromley for offering this opportunity for me to talk to you about the National Missing Persons Hackathon on Friday the 24th of March. Last bit, follow National Missing Persons Hackathon on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Over the next couple of weeks, we will be asking for your support. So please, thank you, and we will see you soon. Michael?
Because that was the last session for Cyber Week 2022, and I'm incredibly proud of the fact that this is the biggest Cyber Week we've ever had, on the back of COVID, on the back of a lot of political and geopolitical unrest across the world. I'm really excited to be able to get people back together. I do need to thank Linda for all her efforts and for moderating our panel today, and our panelists. Thank you so much as well for joining us today. And all of you who are here in the room and who are online, or who have been in the rooms or have been online all week, thank you so much for your part in contributing to all of this. Our sponsors, ASA, CyberMerc, CyberAware, and Snare, thank you so much for your support. And remember, we all need more investment in this cybersecurity industry. Go out and tell your friends, your boss, your partners, your companies, everybody. I also want to thank the team at AusCyber, our cybersecurity innovation nodes across the country, for putting all this together. You can imagine putting an event together is difficult. Putting an event together 5 days, 5 different locations, online and in person, makes it even more complex. I think they all deserve a round of applause for that effort. The AWSN for contributing in Melbourne, the National Missing Persons Coordination Centre, the City of Joondalup, and OSINT combined in particular. And for those of you in WA, I said it right this time, so I promise to remember. Our official media partners, My Security Marketplace and Australian Cybersecurity Magazine, thank you so much for all the support and the help. Broadcasting this, communicating this is so critical and so important. What an incredible week. I'm really excited that we were honored, really, to be able to bring all this information to people across the country. We've introduced you to so many different cybersecurity experts, so many people who are doing great work and could be doing more. We've been around as much of this country as we could get to in 5 days. We'll see how we go next year and where we're going to end up, but really excited to be able to take the message on the road. We've had a full breadth and depth of content this week around cybersecurity. I've learned so much from all of you and from all the experts that we've had, and the conversations have been amazing. We've had some pretty interesting debates along the way, and that's part of the whole thing. Get everybody talking, get everybody's perspective, get new ideas, new thoughts, and innovate our way into a global position. What more could you want to do than to continue to make Australia great and make it a cybersecurity global power? That's the goal here, right? We have that opportunity. We introduced our fourth sector competitiveness plan, and by now you've all read it, right? No? Good. You do have some pamphlets on your tables, and for those of you online, feel free to check it out. You can use the QR code to have us quiz and give us your feedback. Feedback is always a gift. On behalf of AusCyber, on behalf of Stone and Chalk Group, I just want to say thank you to everybody who's attended, everybody who's participated, everybody who's shared their insights and their thoughts. We were really delighted to have brought this to you over the course of this week. And with that, I say thank you, and that is the close for Cyber Week 2022. Thanks for coming.